And welcome to another edition of TI Now. Power over Ethernet has transformed the ICT market, and the STEP Foundation is there to facilitate that transformation. We're here today with Charlie Fox. He's the executive director of the STEP Foundation. We'll get to that description of what STEP does in just a little bit. Also on our program is Andy Jimenez. He's the Vice President of Technology at Anixter Solutions. And gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having us.
Is that correct, by the way? Is it Anixter Solutions, or do you refer to it just as Anixter?
Just Anixter Incorporated, or Anixter International. That's kind of how we're commonly known.
Okay, well, it's a solutions provider, so
we are.
It counts. Charlie, thanks for being with us.
My pleasure.
Yeah, by the way, when were you appointed Executive Director of STEP?
Started May 1st.
Great.
This year.
Great. And any new developments that you can tell us about right off the bat about the STEP Foundation?
Well, we're hoping to get a standard from TIA momentarily that'll help, and that's going to be a big issue and a big help. But we should know within the next week about the standard for the STEP process. So we're waiting for that. And a new website will be out on October 21st.
Great, great. Now, of course, as I mentioned in the introduction, we'll get to the description of what the STEP Foundation is and does in just a moment. Andy, I want to start with you. Power over Ethernet. I mentioned it's transformed the ICT market and the communications industry. How so?
Well, if you look at it back in the inception, back in 2003, there was a lot of practical benefits around Power over Ethernet. If you look at what it really provides a user, it provides a uniform infrastructure to deliver both data and power to your end devices. So really from a practical perspective, deployment is much easier because you're pulling just a single cable to a device versus two, so you don't have to pull separate wires now. And really there's a lot of integration benefits to it too as well. So since it runs over the IP network, the ability to do integration between different subsystems, whether it's your badging systems, your access control systems, your video surveillance systems, your wireless systems, et cetera, these can all be completely integrated now through the Ethernet network. So I think long term, it's going to continue. I think there's still a lot of benefits to the technology. The standards organizations are working hard to develop each iteration of technology. Really what we're focused on right now is delivering more power to the end devices. Back in 2003, if you look at the first version of the IEEE 802.3 AF standard, it only delivered about 12.95 watts to a device. And I think certainly there's a lot of applications that could take advantage of that. I think where the committee is going now is looking to provide at least 49 watts of power, maybe upwards of 70 watts of power. So that work is currently being conducted by the IEEE 802.3 BT task force. We're looking to hopefully develop that standard by mid to late 2015, but I think with a higher power, really the practical benefits and really the integration benefits of the technology, the ability to basically integrate multiple subsystems together, I think the future for Power over Ethernet is bright.
Andy, of course, with any new technology, there's going to be some barriers to adoption. What's the barriers to adoption for PoE?
Well, I think much like we've seen in other technologies, there's always an incumbent technology that's getting displaced by what we consider the better technology. So kind of as a case study, if you look at the security industry, that technology was dominated by analog-based systems. So you had analog cameras, analog access control systems. They kind of operated separately. There's a certain way of doing things from a deployment perspective. So the way we see it, the real barrier is really, how do you transition from kind of the older technology to the newer technology? I think there's always going to be resistance in the marketplace as that occurs. So there are certain forces that exist in the marketplace, whether they're regulatory forces or commercial sources that kind of prevent the adoption of the newer technology. But I think that's really the main barrier. But I think ultimately at the end of the day, end users will look at technology and see what does the trick. What does meet my requirements from an application perspective? What is the better technology? And I think with the benefits that we've laid out for Power over Ethernet, both the energy efficiency aspect, the integration aspect, the deployment aspects of it, I think it's, again, a pretty strong value proposition that customers can consider. And I think that's ultimately the way it's going to go.
Charlie, I'd love for you to tell our viewers quickly about the STEP Foundation, but also how do you get involved in new technologies and initiatives like PoE?
Sure. STEP Foundation was founded approximately 7 years ago by 4 companies, TIA, CompTIA, Infocom, and Bixby. And we've added a sustaining partner in the CCCA organization. And the reason it was founded is these organizations provide ICT, information communication technology, and there was not a voice for them in the market because they thought they contributed to not only smart buildings in connectivity and communication, but also had a big impact on sustainability. So STEP Foundation was formed, and we advocate for the ICT industry, for energy reduction, material reduction, space reduction, carbon footprint impact, and reducing both CapEx and OpEx costs. So technologies that Andy just went over, as POE, we see coming down have a huge impact on the future of building and building operations because it reduces the amount of energy needed, material, because now over one cable you can do both data and power. So it really lends itself to a smart, sustainable building, which is what STEP Foundation is all about.
Andy, you talked about some of the value prop of POE technologies, but you also talked about some of the barriers to adoption of POE. Let me ask you this: where do you see POE technologies in the next 3 years, let's say?
Well, again, I think it's going to be more widely adopted. I think barring some regulatory issues that could certainly come to play, I think with the increased power that's being developed by the committees, I think it'll open up a whole host of new applications. Building automation, more security applications, certainly wireless and lighting systems and of whatnot. So I think you're going to see more and more adoption of the technology as we move forward.
Charlie, the evolution of STEP. I know it's a relatively new foundation. The evolution of STEP in light of new technologies like POE. Let's say over the next 3 years.
Well, the technologies like POE and with fiber and wireless, when it comes down, is all going to drive the building both smart and then sustainable, because people are looking, building owners are looking for getting credit for actually thinking about sustainability. It does have a cost ramification, and we are working to keep the cost either equal to or lower than the traditional method, but then the sustainability credits that you get for it really help because of the energy, as we had talked about, the energy reduction, material, and space reduction, all of which building owners are looking for. And POE is one, and there's more technologies coming out in the ICT world almost daily. And companies like Anixter, who are a solution provider, can take those technologies and package them in a solution. So they're now actually worth more in the sense, instead of standalone, when they're put in a solution, they have a greater impact.
I think it's important, Charlie, to continue to talk about organizations like the STEP Foundation that highlight environmental initiatives. It's important to keep discussing the matters surrounding what you guys do over at STEP, so we appreciate it. And Andy, thanks for coming in. I know you came quite a ways to talk about POE and what we can expect over the next few years.
I appreciate being here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abe.